Hello everyone, and thank you for tuning in to this episode of Project 402. I'm here today with Justin Rolfus. He's the owner of Mirata Marketing here in Omaha, and you're going to get a chance to hear his story and learn some tips about how to start your small business and be successful at whatever you choose to do. So Justin, welcome. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Yeah. So what first got you into owning your own business?
You know, I've probably always kind of had that bug of trying to be an entrepreneur. Learned a lot from people that I worked for, but always kind of knew that at the end of the day I wanted to be the guy making the decision as well too.
Sure.
And so really kind of through my background of starting on the agency side, transitioning to the client side of the desk for a lot of things, you know, really kind of said, if I start my own business, how would I structure? What would I do differently? And how would I help people? And that's really kind of what it boiled down to. That's where the idea kind of came from for the agencies, is we do things drastically different than most traditional agencies.
Sure.
And it's done with a purpose, because I've had experience working for and with them, and just felt that there was a better way to help serve that small to medium-sized business owner. And so that's really kind of where Mirata Marketing kind of started and came from. But I'd say that itch has always kind of been there to own my own business and really kind of make an impact in what we're looking to do.
Yeah. So is it safe to say that you kind of took, well, because you've been in the industry for a while, right?
Mm-hmm.
Did you kind of take all the bad things of working for a different company and say, you know, I want to fix those, and kind of the only way to do that is to break out the handcuffs from a corporation and go out on your own?
Yeah, I mean, I would say both bad and good things I took from everywhere that
Definitely.
I was at. You know, the good things of the foundation, we kept those and really kind of worked on just ways to change the things that I didn't like about the way the relationship was run. And that doesn't mean that the traditional structure is wrong or incorrect by any means.
Mm-hmm.
It just means that it wasn't the way that I felt the relationship between the business and the agency should be run. And there's a more value that could be provided from that, a more of a true partnership structure than, you know, the kind of just vendor relationship between the two. And so really kind of took those things that I didn't like and then figured out how could I improve upon those things, make them better, but also make it a benefit for the client that they're better as well too. Because just because it's different doesn't mean that, you know, we need to, and that's going to screw me. I should have taken that. I'm trying to keep that off, but sorry. Start again. What was that question then?
So I was asking what you took the good and the bad from previous agencies that you had worked at and kind of created your own thing, right?
Yeah, and I think it was important to really take the foundation of what was there, because that traditional agency world is not bad or incorrect. It's not, you know, that type of relationship is wrong. It's just that I felt there were things that could be improved upon. You're really creating more of that true partnership relationship with the business, not a vendor relationship with them.
Partnership meaning what exactly? Like, are you asking for equity? Surely not for equity in the company.
No, partnership in the sense of we're truly invested in your success.
Okay.
It's not about you always having to come to us and say, I need to do this now. I need to do this now. I need to do this now. And always driving what the execution is. We want to really understand your business as well as you do.
Sure.
So we can come to you and say, hey, you know, if you're doing this in your business, you should be doing this with it too, because you're going to get better results.
That's not standard? Because to me, I feel like if I'm a small business owner, I opened up like a roofing company, I would have no idea what to reach out to my agency, my marketing agency, and say, man, I need a Facebook campaign. That's not my area of expertise. Right. I feel like that's commonplace, but that's not the case.
It is to a degree, but think about it from the business owner standpoint.
Sure.
If I'm always coming to you and saying, hey, you need to do this, you should be doing this, you should be doing this, and oh, by the way, it's going to cost you this to do it, and oh, by the way, it's going to cost you this to do it, it's always a revenue drive before that. The question in your mind is, well, why are they telling me that I need to do that? Is it they want more revenue, or is it that it's the right thing at the right time? And so that's what I wanted to avoid through our relationship, is just really kind of figuring out, anytime I come to you and we're in what we call our Mirata Advantage structure, which is our long-term relationship structure with somebody, I can come to you and say, hey, if you're doing this, you should be doing this as well now too, because you're going to get better results. And it's always coming from a place of that I think it's the right thing to do, because it's not going to make us any more money under that structure.
Oh, it's more of an umbrella price structure?
It's so our Mirata Advantage structure is more of a flat fee that covers all of your execution. And it's all based on what we're actually being asked to take on for you. So we fluctuate it based on our workload.
Okay.
But it's really reflective of what that relationship is, but it allows us to act more as that internal employee, but still have the service level of a full service agency. So you get kind of the best of both worlds under that. But again, it's just that true partnership agreement to where we're helping use our expertise and experience to drive what you need to be doing to grow your business and accomplish your goals, and helping you figure out what those are. It's not just about, hey, I need to recommend something because we haven't done a project together in a while and we want to keep the relationship
the revenue,
going.
like you said.
Yeah. And it doesn't mean that they are recommending things that are inappropriate or anything like that.
Well, you'd hope, right?
Right. And I'm sure there's some that do, but the vast majority of them are not doing it that way. But it's just a different type of relationship to where they're always having to sell the next thing. And I don't want to have to sell anything. I don't want to sell you on anything. I want us to figure out what are the right things for you to do to help you grow your business, and let's do that. And let's find the easiest way to do it.
So what all services do you offer then for small business owners? And actually, take a step back before the services. What is your target market? I think when you and I spoke first, you said that you've kind of filled in a gap that you found from working at other agencies. Do you want to explain?
Yeah. So really, our goal is to work with that small to medium-sized business owner.
Okay.
We've worked with everything from startup companies to Fortune 300 companies, and we can continue to do anything within that spectrum. But really, where I feel the gap in our area in particular, but also just in our industry, because we've worked with people all over the country as well. So we're not just tied to only working in Omaha. But across the country, I think the opportunity exists to help that small and medium-sized business, because too frequently they're either doing it themselves, which is what you need to do at the beginning. You don't have resources to do it. Yeah, I get it. So getting the help where you need to and can within that. But then some people hold on to that for too long and hinder their growth because they're afraid to go to the agency and then typically overpay for what they're getting out of that. Makes sense. That's where we saw an opportunity in that gap in between for that small to medium-sized business owner that's really kind of ready to take that next step in growth, but is kind of debating, do I bring somebody on internally? Do I continue to try to manage it myself, or do I go to an agency? And we want to be the best of all three of those options to really kind of help them be affordable, but true professional help too, to help them grow their business and really kind of drive results from that side of it.
Makes sense. Yeah. What would you classify as a small to medium business? Because you said even Fortune 300 companies. To me, that's a huge corporation.
Yeah. So while we work with anybody in any stage of where they're at,
what's your ideal?
Our kind of sweet spot to where that, especially that Mirata Advantage structure, is really beneficial, is kind of 500,000 revenue to 10 million. That kind of revenue on a yearly, annual basis is really about where we see the best benefit, to where they have the budget available for us to really execute a lot on their behalf and really help them grow their business. That doesn't mean if somebody just wants to run some Facebook ads, that's fantastic. We would love to have that conversation and help you run some Facebook ads to grow your business and get you some initial results to where you're then able to then get to that next stage where now maybe we add in some digital display, we add in some other type of collateral, or redo the website, or whatever it is that becomes the right next thing to do, but we've already built enough momentum out of that initial thing to help you get to where we need to get to.
That makes a lot of sense.
We'll work with anybody. It's just about finding the right things to do to help them accomplish their goals with whatever resources, time or money they have available to use. It's about figuring out what's the right thing to do and how do we have the most impact that we can for what that is.
You said digital online billboards, or what did you call them?
Yeah, displays.
So what all do you offer for?
So technically we're a full service agency, so we can handle anything and everything associated with marketing or advertising. I would say what's really core to what we do is strategy. So really helping somebody plan out where they are, where they want to get to in 3 or 5 years, and then how do we put a plan in place that has goals for the next 12 months to help them build momentum towards their 3 and 5 year goal. So we put a full tactical plan to that to say, here's everything that we can do to help accomplish that goal. And then we take that even a step further and say, here's the first 90 days. Here's where we start. Here's where the foundation gets built. And then every 90 days we revisit that to make sure that we're accomplishing those things. And then building it and adding into what that is. So strategy is definitely a big part of what we do, because even when we don't go through that full strategic planning process, we never want to have the conversation of, well, let's just try this and see what happens, and
Right.
unfortunately some people have that conversation and they get sold into doing that. And I think you always have to have a purpose. You always have to have a strategy behind what you're trying to do. So that's very core to what we kind of hold on to from that side of it. We do a lot of branding work. So we do a lot of logo design, but also what we call true brand identity creation. So how do we take, your message, your core differentiator for your business, put that in a concise brand line that communicates a differentiator to the marketplace, and then build a consistent visual identity for your business. So that anytime somebody sees your business card, your website, your collateral pieces, your digital advertising, no matter what it is, it all ties back into that core visual and brand identity side of it.
I'm so ignorant on this topic in this field. Does that mean, I'm sure that goes beyond just the same colors for like business card, website, like what all goes into creating a brand, especially with the age and advent of people like Gary Vaynerchuk and creating a personal brand. How do you define a brand for a small business?
Yeah, so it's the consistent visual identity of the business is really how we kind of look at it. And part of that is what the brand line is. And that is kind of, if you look at different brands, they always have, like, even on their homepage, they'll have that little line up front that kind of just says who and what they are, what they stand for, what they're about, what their business is. And so really that brand line is that first kind of brand promise from you to your consumer of who and what you are and what you're going to do for them. So it really starts to set that stage for then you to springboard into the conversation of, here's why we're different and here's why you should do business with us.
Sure.
So it's creating that identity that then goes into the visuals, so the pictures, the type of pictures, the feel that you get from those pictures. How do we treat them? Do we have an overlay on them? Do we have a wash that creates a different tone to it?
Wow.
All of that creates the consistency that anytime you see that moving forward, you know that it ties back into that brand. But then obviously goes into fonts, colors, all that sort of stuff as well too. But it's creating that consistency through everything to really kind of have a home base to touch on whenever you do anything. A flyer, a website, a digital ad, all starts in that same home to be able to go out and build out to what that is.
I see. And you already told me what your brand is, kind of filling that gap and creating the partnership and the relationship rather than just being a service provider.
Yeah, and so
like
like
small businesses.
Our brand line is evolving expectations.
Okay.
And so really what that means, you'll see that on our website, it's on our business cards, it's all over what we do as well. But evolving expectations of, not only what your marketing should do for you and your business, but what your relationship should be like with your agency. So that really is how we're springboard into our conversation around how we're different and why we're different, because we're evolving expectations around those things. And so it really allows you to then get into your differentiators from a market standpoint to that side. From there, we always take that brand identity, and typically we're working on some type of website rollout for it.
Okay.
Ideally, we're going to redesign and redevelop the website, only because we build everything full custom. So we don't use a template or a theme and just kind of plug in pictures and stuff somewhere.
Like WordPress or like DreamHost, things like that, like
Wix. Exactly.
Okay.
And those, there's a time and a place for those.
Sure.
So I don't want to, knock those, or anything. There's a time and a place for some of those templated structures and themes, but what we feel like is it's a better place for your business to be when your website is structured for you to help convert your customer. You're going to have a better experience for that consumer, but you're also going to convert higher off of that as well too. So any digital traffic or any of those things that you're doing at trade shows or any of that are going to drive back to your website, and your website is built to help you convert through that funnel as well too. Okay. So we build everything from that full custom standpoint to really structure it for those individuals in that business to help them convert as much as possible. That's another thing that we do slightly different than everybody else. Pricing wise, we're pretty aggressive with what that pricing is for that kind of full custom structure. It's
aggressive meaning higher or very competitive?
No, like usually about 50% less than what is traditionally available.
That is
in our
very
market.
aggressive.
Because we're making what we need to make out of it, but I want it to be affordable for that small to medium sized business owner to get what they need out of the site.
Right.
To not have to settle for a template because that's all they can afford.
Sure.
We want to help them get what's right, not just what they can do and can afford. What's the right thing to do?
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it is starting with a template and just getting some momentum going, and that's fine. There's a time and a place for those, like I said. But there's also a time and a place where it's time to do it, correctly, and take it that next step and then next step further.
That's a very good point, because I think I mentioned to you several years ago, I looked back into kind of creating my own, not nearly as in-depth as you are, but my own social media management company.
Mm-hmm.
And a couple of my friends have actually just recently started one as well. And we just naturally, I was looking at competitors in the industry, and man, I don't like name dropping. I don't know how you feel about that, but some of the competitors around town, their prices, I'm like, man, there's no way a small business, or especially like a startup even, can afford anything like that.
Yeah.
So it's to hear that you're 50% less on everything, but you're still delivering quality work,
Right.
is phenomenal.
Yeah.
And that's, I'm sure, tricky for your customers when they see your price, because a lot of people I've experienced personally, they see, oh, that's cheap, it must be not as good. But then you just have to I know, just hearing your story already, you just have to get in front of them and say, no, we're still delivering quality work. Here's why. Here's the why behind why we do what we do and how we can help you in a different and better way.
Yeah, and I think that's why we don't ever lead with price too. I'd rather, have them thinking that it's going to be expensive than surprise them that
Absolutely.
it's not.
It's a much better surprise.
Yeah, but I'd put our creative, our deliverable, up with anybody in the market.
Really, that's awesome.
So you want to put the biggest agencies in Omaha in a room and have us stand next to our work with them. I'd stand next to it really proud all day long, because I think we do really high quality deliverable in what we do. So I would have no problem standing in that room and being proud of what we do. But I just don't feel like we have to maximize the exposure to that business and hope that they come back for more. I'd rather work with them for 20 years than maximize what I can that one time and then hope that they come back.
Build a legacy, build a legitimate relationship, rather than just the transactional thing, which is, like you said, one of the reasons you went off and started your own company in the first place.
The partnership. It's not a vendor tries to get what they can out of you. A partner is doing what's right and then continue that relationship for a long time.
That's a very good point. So brand is obviously a reoccurring theme and topic, and it's very critical for small businesses and, well, just any business really. I mean, look at Nike, the Fortune 500 companies too. Do you ever work with people in the sense of a personal brand? Is that a term that is not proper? But someone like me who's just an independent contractor, 1099er, do you ever have those types of clients where they're trying to make themselves kind of more different and more diverse, rather than just being just another financial advisor, just another realtor, or just another construction guy?
Yeah, to a degree. I mean, I think there's all sorts of different types of personal brands too. There's personal brands to create that kind of attraction for the person. So you mentioned Gary Vaynerchuk earlier. Yeah. He's got a brand around his name that is his personality.
Sure.
He's used that to grow all of his business interests, but he's also got his own personal side that he's just trying to be the biggest Gary Vee that he can be, right? So I think when you look at how do you kind of take that approach from a financial planner that's in an agency in a firm, how do you help them stand out from everything is a little bit slightly different. In my mind, we treat that a little bit more more like a franchise structure, to where now we're going to look at how do we leverage what the firm gives you from a marketing and advertising asset side, but then how do we customize that to you to use it maybe in a slightly different way than what everybody else is doing with that.
So kind of use the push that the big company name has, that just gives you naturally from being with an accredited organization, but also kind of adding a personal touch on it.
Yeah, I mean, so we saw that all the time from the automotive space. We've done a lot of work with BMW, Jaguar, Land Rover, Mini Cooper, lots of different brands that are around the area, and so we work with the manufacturers on that side as well too. But they're going to create these big commercials that are millions of dollars to create.
Right.
Well, we're not going to be able to do anything on the local level that rivals that. So why try to recreate what they're already giving us to use and already paying for us to be able to use? So we take that, we can customize it with our website, our phone number, different things around that to make it kind of fit into what we're doing.
I see.
But not have to recreate and reinvest in creating a brand new commercial that we're never going to get it as good as what they've already gotten it.
Yeah, leverage what they've already done.
Right. So take that, use it in our market, customize it to us, but then spend our money on digital, on other things that work within our market.
Mm-hmm.
But now we can save our budget for that, but still have the execution level of what we're looking to do from the manufacturer side. So we take that approach a lot with franchises as well too. How do we leverage what the franchise gives you?
Yeah.
Whether it's just assets like a TV commercial or ads or whatever it may be, but then how do we also leverage that into our local market and supplement that with whatever we can do here, whether it's digital advertising or social media or whatever it may be.
Right. No, that makes a lot of sense. Because, you don't want to... Otherwise, you're kind of starting from ground zero and almost battling against what they've done and the assets and the time and money they put into their own marketing videos or whatever it may be.
To a degree, definitely.
Mm-hmm. What are some big name clients that you've worked with? I don't know if you're at liberty to say.
Yeah.
But what big names, I guess, coolest, most popular, or even just kind of most fun? Just you did like a quirky, weird business that no one's ever heard of.
Yeah. So we work with businesses of all different shapes and sizes and industries and all of that. We've worked with current and former professional athletes. So,
oh, really?
We had a golf professional that was out on tour, had actually won the Big Break Invitational through the Golf Channel, and was on the Big Break, which is a show on the Golf Channel for them. We really kind of helped try to turn his focus into sponsorships and growing his following and leveraging that time on the show to be able to figure out, how do we continue to grow and keep him on tour and kind of help keep him supported through that. We've worked with a former NFL athlete out of Colorado who really just wanted to help young kids not make the same mistakes that he made on his way to the NFL. And so he built a couple fantastic products through that. One, a mentorship structure that really worked with young athletes on how to be a good student athlete, not just an athlete. It wasn't about how do we help them run better routes or tackle better or whatever. It was more about how do we help them be a better member of society? How do we help them be a better teammate and work with a coach that maybe they don't see eye to eye with? Right. How do you still be respectful and work with that coach to help him be the asset that he can be for you and your side of it?
Those must have been really fun ones.
Yeah, I mean, everyone has its own fun level to it too, but we're working right now with a lady who's been a travel nurse for 15 years, and she's had this site for over 13 years that is just really meant to educate those travel nurses on different aspects of finding the right agency to travel with. How do you know that the hospital is good that you're going to? How do you know that you're getting the right pay structure when you're going to those places? Really focusing on educating those nurses on how to travel most effectively. And so it's been really fun over the last couple of years working with her and watching that continue to grow on a business that's been around for 13 years.
There's a business out there for everything. I never would have imagined that there's like a consultant for traveling nurses to make sure all those things hit the check marks.
Yep.
Weird.
For sure.
Okay. Don't want to name drop anybody?
You can. I mean, that's Highway Hypodermics is her name.
Okay.
That's the travel nurse company.
I meant more for the sports guys.
The sports guys. So Jay Woodson is the golfer.
Okay.
So he was on the Big Break and did a lot of stuff with the Golf Channel. He's been on the PGA Tour and he spent a lot of time on the mini tours as well. And then Bo Scaife is the former NFL athlete. He was with the Tennessee Titans for quite a few years.
Okay.
Played at Texas with Vince Young and all those guys before. Right before they won the Rose Bowl that year at USC. It was the year after he got done. Was already playing in the NFL. So
sure. So when a client comes to you, because this is something I want to know, do they have to say, I give all my rights away? Do they give you all their passwords? Do they sign something that says you can say their name in an interview?
Yeah.
I'm sure there's so much contract and paperwork that goes behind different types of permissions that they can or can't give out.
Yeah, and so it really depends on kind of who they are. Okay. We always have it to where we can anything that we create for them, we structure it as they own it when we're done with it and they've paid for it. So a lot of agencies hold ownership of projects.
So like if they take a cool picture of their office, they'll say you can't put that on your
Well, if they
social if you stop hiring us.
If they essentially they could in certain situations, or like a logo, like the ownership, is resides with them, and some of it stems from intellectual property standpoint. That They always want to hold that ownership. Some of it stems from probably a less pure standpoint as well, but.
Yeah, there's both.
Yeah, I always thought that you contracted us to do it for you. It's yours. I don't need to own it. What we have in our contract is full usage rights to it afterwards, which really ultimately just allows us to not have to get written permission to use it when we need to print something for you or whatever. So it just clears up the paperwork structure from that side.
I didn't think about that for future work with just print or because every social media or just digital advertising agency I've seen just in your field in general will list we've worked with GE, or they'll list all their big name clients so other people know they do good work and actually are more than just working out of your garage.
Yep.
So I assume there's some legalness behind that. Where say something like, you can post our logo on your website and share our testimonial. Things like that.
And depending on your contract, depends on if you can do it or you need to get extra permission to use it on a website or somewhere that's not a traditional structure. So it just kind of depends on how your agreement is. And that just varies from company to company. But the ownership thing is something that I would definitely look at in any contract that you're doing with a marketing agency to make sure that at the end of the day you own the deliverable.
Right.
And we still, have it in ours that we get full usage rights to it so we can print and execute things for you on your behalf. But at the end of the day, you contracted us to do it. I don't need to hold ownership of that to do that. So it's one of the things that we definitely kind of look at.
Have you personally then seen scenarios where a company will hire someone to do a logo and then they kind of somehow get screwed over and then they have to switch the logo? Have you seen something like that happen?
Yeah, and not so much necessarily always from an ownership standpoint. We've definitely seen that too, where if a company feels that they got screwed in some fashion and you as the business quit working with them and they feel slighted in that, then they would hold the working files of your logo to not give to you. And so that really just becomes, then you can't really do much without the working files, especially if we're trying to tweak it or adjust it or do something. So we've seen that, but we've also seen the standpoints of, working with an actual professional in our industry versus trying to go and do it yourself or hire a $5 freelancer that's going to do something. We had a potential client that came to us and was working on to execute a few things and was in the process of getting her logo and packaging for her product approved through the lawyer. She already had it done. She went overseas to get it done because it was a lot cheaper than what she had options for here. But when she got through the lawyer side of it, she got told that she couldn't trademark it or actually even use it because it was an exact replica of something that was already out on the market. So,
weird.
Yeah. So
they're just kind of doing the same logo for anybody and just
taking a popular logo and changing the colors and tweaking it a little bit to make it yours. But it's still too close to what that other one is that you're not going to be able to do it.
That's how shady.
Yeah, but when you go overseas, and I don't want to make it an overseas thing, when you don't use a reputable person, you can get taken advantage of. And so then she had to kind of go back and say, okay, now I've got to reinvest, so it's going to cost me probably twice as much as it would have if I did it the first time.
Yeah.
And so that's just where the use of a professional. Yes, it costs more than the person who's just doing it on the side and for fun, but it's also worth it because they're doing it every day. They're building it for you, and there's longevity into what that's going to be as well too.
Man, what an unfortunate situation.
Definitely, felt really bad for her. And it costs us business at the end of the day too. Not nearly as important as what it cost her. To have to go back through and repeat that whole process and basically start over, which is another probably 4-month process. By the time you do logo, branding, and packaging, you've lost half a year.
That's a good point.
So.
So you guys do packaging too, like the designs for packaging?
We can do anything. So packaging, we do a lot of collateral work. We do events and trade shows. So we've built trade show booths for people that are local 10 by 10 pop-ups.
Yeah.
We've built 20 foot by 30 foot massive things that have stuff hanging from the ceiling.
Is there anything Mirata won't do?
No, not really.
You'll find a way. If you don't know how to do it, you'll find a way.
Yeah, we've probably honestly done almost anything that exists.
Yeah.
We may not have done it a whole lot of times, but we've probably done it at least once. And so we have a good knowledge base of where to go from there. But really, again, it goes back to finding the right things that they need to do to grow their business. And whatever that is and whatever that fits into the resource level, that's what we want to help them achieve. So if going to trade shows and doing that is what's appropriate, then let's help them get the right kind of giveaways. Let's help them pre-promote it so that people know that they're there and not just hope that people stop and talk to them at their booth. So it's just, there's a lot of different ways that we can help. It's about figuring out what's right, and then how do we do that to the best possible way to get the best possible results.
Interesting. Yeah, so it's not all sitting in a dark room coding or sitting behind a desk all day. It's and we don't have go ahead.
Yeah, we don't have a widget to sell. Like I'm not a digital advertiser that has to sell you on running Facebook ads.
Sure.
Because that's the only thing that I can do. You need specialists too, so I don't want to discount or discredit what they do, but being full service, we can help in all those different facets and figure out what do you really need to do and how do we help you do that.
I like that. So your industry is obviously something that you can kind of do remotely and have clients all across the world while still being just in any city that you want. What made you, what brought you to Omaha in the first place? Because you said you played college not outside of Omaha, right? What brought you to Omaha, and then what ultimately made you stay here?
Yeah.
What about the city attracted you?
Yeah, so for me, my wife's from here. She grew up in Elkhorn, so her whole family is kind of around this area. I actually grew up in New York, so transitioning from there to Kearney to play football was a lot different.
Wow.
Growing up 40 miles north of New York City, we were in the city whenever we wanted to be, and so knowing that I couldn't live in Kearney long term, it's a great city. Great people, but it's just too small for what I needed to be around. Coming here after school, it was easy for her to want to come back here with her family and do that.
Gosh, what was that culture shock like from New York to Kearney? Were you just like, man, there's nothing to do here? What was that like?
Yeah, fortunately, my mom grew up in Kearney.
Oh, okay.
And her parents had still lived there when I was going to school. My grandpa still lives there today. So I had been there enough to kind of know what I was getting into going there. Living there still a whole different story. But I had some familiarity with it before I kind of took that leap into going there. But definitely different. I mean, I tell people all the time, when I first got to Kearney, I was convinced that I had the same car as somebody that was really popular in town. Because I'm driving around town, everybody's waving. But it wasn't. It's just that people are friendly here.
Funny.
So it's a total different personality because they're not doing that back home.
Right.
You're not getting waved to by someone you don't know. So it's just a different structure, different personality.
Sure.
But what I love about Omaha is, for me, it's the perfect kind of mix of all of that.
Is it really?
It's big enough that I can get whatever I need or go different places, shop different places, not be limited to one grocery store. Or there's options that I can get wherever I need to get to and do whatever. It's still not Kansas City or Denver or whatever, and I get that. I'm not trying to argue that part of it. But it's big enough to make me feel like I'm in a city, not just a little small town.
Right. And people don't wave to each other here, really.
Yeah, not as much. So it makes you feel a little like home. But, I think it still has that Midwest personality, that waving, that kind of friendliness, the work hard but enjoy yourself. That is much more my personality anyway. So that side of it fits really well with me. And then, being big enough to kind of go where we need to go from go see a movie and have a bunch of different theaters to choose from, or shop at different grocery stores or whatever it may be. There's options there, which is so comfortable.
Yeah, there's a very good variety in Omaha. Like you said, even grocery stores. We do have a Whole Foods. We have the local mom and pop grocery stores. We have farmers markets where you can get natural more natural foods. So yeah, Omaha does have a very good variety.
Yeah.
What's one or two things that you think the city's missing though, from obviously New York, like minus like public transportation?
Yeah.
What's some things that Omaha could benefit from in your opinion?
Yeah, I mean, I think, in my opinion, I think it needs to. Public transportation is a huge thing, so I don't want to dive in and get in a soapbox with that.
Right, yeah, it's
because that can go a lot
common thing.
yeah, I mean that. There's a lot that can be done around that here too. There's some great organizations around town that are actually helping do some of that sort of stuff too.
The streetcar advocates. Are you?
Well, Chariots for Hope is a nonprofit that we kind of have some affiliation with.
Okay, I actually haven't heard of them.
They are a fantastic organization. They help get single parents vehicles. So, but you have to go through their program, get vetted through them, make sure that not everybody just gets a car. It's not about the car. It's about making sure that you're then prepared to handle the car and take care of it, and it's the appropriate structure.
Chariots for Hope?
Yeah, Chariots for Hope. Very faith-based organization that does just fantastic work with people in the community. But solving some of that transportation need for those single parents that need to get to their job, need to get kids to the doctor, need to take care of their families, and are ready to do that. They just need kind of that helping hand to get going. But I think for me, I think I miss the most about home is a lot of the kind of mom and pop shop restaurants. So there's some here, and there's some great areas like Benson and downtown has some of those, Blackstone. So there are some emerging areas that have that, but so much of what's here is chain stuff and that and sure, there's times to have that, but back home, everything was mom and pop. You were more hard pressed to find a chain place than you were a local mom and pop restaurant. But
why do you think that is?
There's just more opportunity there to do your own thing. There's more population to make it survive, because every place has its own little flavor too. So New York City is known for pizza. Well, there's outside of Sbarro's, there's not really a chain New York pizza place anywhere, and that's because every single one has a slightly different flavor to it. So you find the ones that you like, and that's part of the fun of going around and doing that. And that kind of culture doesn't necessarily exist here. There's lots of local mom and pop places here that are fantastic from a food side of things. In my opinion, they just need to be a lot more of them.
That's interesting. That goes kind of against what most people hear about Omaha. I don't know if you've heard. Allegedly, we have the most restaurants per capita.
Yeah.
I guess I never thought about whether or not that included chains. But do you think that's because once you get? I've never been to New York, unfortunately. I really want to go. I lived in Chicago for a little while though.
Okay.
Do you think that the restaurant issue that we just discussed with Omaha is because Omaha doesn't have like really true neighborhoods, like where there'll be parts of a city that like Chinatown, right? That's like all local authentic Chinese food and local.
Right.
Yeah. Do you think that might be why?
I don't know. I mean, I'm probably not smart enough to answer.
Oh yeah, we're not economic developers.
that question. I don't know. I mean, I think some of it is the perspective of people. At least from my perspective, sometimes it's going from south of Dodge to north of Dodge. If you're at Center Street to get up to Maple, it feels like you're going to a whole. You might as well be driving to Lincoln. And I think that becomes hard when it's a 10-minute drive. You should be able to go up there and support those organizations and those things that are that far up. But sometimes it just feels like it's so far away
because it's
really
a
not.
Different setting or different landscape, or how do you mean exactly?
Like it just feels like we live southwest Omaha.
Okay. And
to drive up to Maple, it's like I'm not going to drive all that way to go up there.
I get you.
I'm going to just go to someone that's in Legacy. And
so geographically, you're saying it's kind of more spread out rather than New York. There's a new mom and pop restaurant around the block.
Every corner, yeah.
I see.
Yeah.
What is your favorite part about Omaha?
Favorite part? I think a lot of the event stuff that Omaha does and gets behind is fantastic.
Any particular events? Like, what do you mean exactly?
Well, like
sports events?
Yeah, like the swim trials,
Okay.
College World Series,
Yeah.
that kind of stuff that is just so well supported by the community.
Mm-hmm.
I think that is what makes Omaha pretty special. I mean, the fact that the swim trials were sold out each time that it's been here.
And it's actually coming back, too. I don't know if you've heard yet.
And that's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
They haven't been anywhere probably twice, let alone 3 times.
Yeah.
And had the kind of support that we give to it.
I love how random it is too. Like Omaha,
yeah, and so, but it's fantastic. I think
it is
Omaha is
really cool.
such an event committee or event
Community,
city. Yeah, and I think that's where things like some professional organizations like the UFL struggled here because it was when it was the first year, it was still the event feel to it rather than supporting another team that's here. But I think there's opportunity for that as well too. They just announced today, a professional soccer team coming to Omaha.
Oh, they did.
And so that's great. There's going to be a community that supports that.
Where's that going to be?
Continue to. They're going to play out of Warner Park.
Okay.
So it's out of Sarpy.
Mm-hmm.
But that's fantastic. There's going to be a lot of people that support that organization,
right.
And I think that opportunity exists here.
That's cool. I've been saying for a long time Omaha needs a soccer team.
Yeah, so it's great. I mean, they've had Creighton, they've had that plays, but
right.
on
a bigger scale.
Yeah, I mean, a professional organization. You're to go hand in hand with the Storm Chasers too. That's down there, so I think that's great.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Why would someone? I mean, you're gonna be the best person to answer this I've ever asked.
Yeah.
Why would someone from New York, L.A., Chicago, St. Louis, a huge city, a huge metro, move to Omaha?
Yeah.
Why should somebody?
I mean, I think cost of living is reasonable. I think there's a lot of opportunity. There's bigger companies that are here. There's a lot of Fortune 500 companies that have offices or headquarters here.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of opportunity to work and do things that are bigger scale than just a little Midwest city. But I think the people make it really what's special. Being able to kind of form those relationships and kind of have people that are open to those. Because again, New York, you go to sit down at a restaurant, you're not talking to anybody else. You go to a coffee shop down there, everyone's got headphones in.
Really?
Everyone's
That's a shame.
They're in their own bubble, and that's just where they want to be, and they're comfortable there. We're out here, I go out to, there's a coffee shop 156th and Dodge, Caramel Coffee.
Oh yeah.
I go there a lot, more than I probably should. But going there, I'm always running into people that are there to meet other people, but I know them, and so then we're gonna have a conversation, or people that are just there, then have a conversation about something else. I mean, it's a different kind of feel to what that is.
Right. What is that magic that creates that? Because I remember the first time I went to Chicago was when I was touring colleges, so I was senior in high school or maybe junior, I don't remember. But we rode on the L from O'Hare to Loyola was what I was touring. And I was with my mom, of course.
Yeah.
And we were on the subway, no one was talking. Everyone had their headphones in, and we're like, it's eerie. All you could hear was the shuffling of the train on the tracks.
Yeah.
And no voices, not even someone screaming at somebody. Like, it was just silence. But yet there's 10 times more people in that city.
Right.
So what is it about Omaha that you think attracts that? Is it that people have just been here for generations and everyone seems to know everybody?
I think it's the small town stuff that's spilled over, because when you look at the evolution of Omaha, it used to be a lot of just small towns outside.
Right.
It used to be the Waverly, right? That's still just on the outskirts, but still kind of a part of it.
Yeah.
And now everything's been annexed and brought in, and everything is pretty well connected. And so, but that small town personality and lifestyle has survived that growth and expansion. And I think that's what the benefit of that is being that kind of personal side to, knowing your neighbor and kind of having that opportunity.
Yeah, Omaha is unique in that sense. No matter what city I've been in, it's just never compares to, it's an intangible thing. You can't put it into words. Where it's just an connectivity of people for no apparent reason.
Yep.
So you told me the backstory of Mirata, but when exactly were you guys founded? When was the days you opened the doors?
Yeah, so we started in 2015.
Okay.
Really kind of, again, got to the point where I wanted to help more people,
Mm-hmm.
and I knew that the best way to do that was from an agency standpoint.
Sure.
But I also knew that I couldn't go back to the agency world the way that it was.
Yeah.
And so that's when I really kind of took some time to figure out what did I want to do? How would I do things differently? How would I structure that? And I took about 6 months to really kind of figure out how would I do things differently? How, if I had my own agency, how would I structure it? What did I want that relationship to look like? So I took that time, really kind of put that plan in place. Then I tested it with a couple clients to make sure that, it executed the way that I thought it would, and it was the right kind of structure.
Mm-hmm.
And then we've been running kind of ever since. So it's
Cool.
been a few little modifications, but most of it was that initial kind of structure, and we've been running ever since.
Right. Do you remember how you obtained your first client?
Yeah, it was actually Bo was one of the first ones that we worked with, and we worked with him for a little over 2 years, and we still kind of do some stuff off and on with him now too to help him continue with what he's doing. But it was a connection between, it was a friend that knew him and played football with me out in Kearney, and then knew him through some relationships that he had out in the Denver area, and so he made an introduction, and it just seemed like it fit with what he was needing at the time, and so we
Bo.
jumped on board. Scaife, the North
I
Colorado. So jumped on board with him and started running from there.
How cool.
Yeah.
It's awesome that your background fell and got that first relationship and
Yeah.
your first customer.
I think everything is about relationships.
It really is.
Even now, where we're well beyond that one client,
Mm-hmm.
it's still about relationships. It's still about talking to people and finding people that are willing to help make introductions for you, and that's where the bulk of our new business comes from, is people that appreciate our story and why we're different and how we're different, and can see how that can help that small to medium sized business.
Right.
And then they make the introduction for us to kind of get us in the door, and then we take it from there.
How does one, especially as a small business owner small or medium business owner who has so much else on their plate, how do you build those genuine relationships, and how do you kind of get your name out there while also making sure the business is running on a daily basis?
Yeah.
Because it's hard to go to all these networking events or joining chamber groups when you're the accountant, the social media guy, and you're the sales guy because you're just brand new.
Yep.
How do you build the authentic relationships?
Yeah, it slowly. That's the honest answer.
Terrible.
It's really, I know, and it's frustrating for any entrepreneur that has that itch. They're like,
Sure.
I want it yesterday,
Mm-hmm.
and
like
I get
myself,
it.
I definitely fall guilty to that.
Yeah.
Patience is.
And so have I.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, I still fall guilty to that, quite often. And there's times when, I have to back off of what I'm doing from a networking standpoint to make sure that the work is getting done at the quality level that we expect
Right.
it to be done.
That's a good point. I'm glad you brought that up because sometimes the work can still get done, but how well is it getting done?
Right. Yeah, I think you definitely got to watch that, because especially in our industry, that's your reputation. It doesn't matter how many hands you shake at events. It's if you can't produce quality work, you're going to get found out really quick, and you're not going to be in business very long from doing that.
I agree.
But so I think it's definitely cyclical in that sense of trying to make sure that you can balance enough of being at events and being visible while still executing the work and doing that side of it, and managing a home life. You got to try to do all of it, and sometimes you're not going to do all of it really well. For me, I've always fell back on making sure that the execution is where it needed to be. So if I'm going to fall short, on my networking events, I'm going to fall short on my networking events. I'm just going to have to work a little bit harder when I get all caught up to that side of it.
Mm-hmm. Gosh, so you were married when you started your business.
Yeah.
And you said, did you have kids?
Yep. So.
Gosh, what was that leap like from having a paycheck, a guarantee, to jumping ship and saying, man, if I get sales, I'll make money, but otherwise, nothing's guaranteed. I couldn't imagine that. I mean, I'm young enough. I don't I don't have a mortgage or kids or really any sort of like financial commitments that are large.
Right.
So I'm at the cusp of trying everything or starting a new business whenever I want. But how do you, I guess, have that conversation first with your wife, with your spouse?
Yeah. Yeah, it's always an interesting decision.
Right.
I think
It's a bold decision.
Yeah, and I think fortunately, because of the research that I had done, because of the testing with clients that I had done, we already kind of had a foundation built to a degree before I needed to jump full into it.
I see.
Everyone's got side hustles and that kind of stuff too, and so it's just eventually getting to the point where you're like, I'm ready to make this happen.
Okay.
And then you just got to jump in and kind of, be at the networking events and do that to kind of grow and shake the hands and make sure that you're making the connections that you need and kind of working that side of it, but always trying to grow, the business and what you do.
Definitely.
I think fortunately for me, my family has been supportive of it. And really kind of understanding to it for the large degree. It doesn't mean that's always easy.
I think that's an important word that you said, understanding.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure there's tons of late nights or nights where you might not even come home until spouse and kids are asleep.
Yeah, definitely, and especially you talk about the networking and that side of it.
Yeah,
there's a lot of evening things.
Yeah, they're always going on late at night.
But yeah, I mean it's. There's been a lot of late nights. There's been a lot of weekends that have been worked. A lot of things that have been missed. And it's not necessarily fun from my side. I really try to separate too. That's one of the great things.
Home and work you're talking about? Okay.
So I try, whenever I get home, I try to be home, around 6:30 at the latest.
Sure.
Doesn't always happen, but that's what I shoot for. Then from 6:30 to 8, while the kids are still awake and doing stuff, I don't touch my phone, my computer.
That's
I'm
awesome.
there
That's
with
incredible.
them.
More people need to practice that.
And it's not always easy. But then once they go to bed, then it's getting back on and kind of handling what needs to be handled. But trying to at least be present wherever I am with them and just kind of, I'll watch and make sure that there's not a fire happening that I need to put out.
Right.
But if it's not, then it can wait till they're in bed and then we can kind of get back involved. But
yeah, that's a good point. I've found that I've actually started a new practice where I'll only really reply to a couple personal text messages a day, but any business text messages or any emails, actually any emails in general, I always check right before I go to bed. Throughout the day, I'm fully present, whether I'm interviewing you or whether I'm a judge at a Shark Tank event at elementary school.
Yeah.
I've been making a priority to put that away, get the distractions out, and really kind of separate that.
Yeah. I mean, I think at the end of the day, no matter what you're doing, you got to commit.
Absolutely.
Whether it's starting a new business, whether it's being present in your home life, whatever it is, you got to commit fully to it if you want it to succeed. Because even when you have the side hustle that may feel like a part-time commitment, it's not. It's just it's not a big enough job or role or income to be your full-time thing, but you're committed to it, to making it that full-time thing.
Right.
It's going to grow, it's going to take off, it's going to be what it should at the end of the day.
It was definitely a transition period.
Yeah, but commit to it. Make sure that it is what you want to do, and then commit to making it happen. But take it where it needs to be, and take those breaks to be present wherever you are, and commit to that as well too.
Conversation I just had with somebody actually before this was that a lot of people my age, especially a lot of the younger generations, they have a hard time with committing to a career, to an industry, or even especially to a company, right? If the company's offering $2 more an hour, they'll say, okay, see you later.
Right.
What recommendations would you give to a young professional, not only necessarily one who wants to start their own business, but just from a career and kind of life perspective?
Yeah.
Especially in regards to finding your passion and finding, a lot of people will start off with a career or job that just gets them a paycheck and then they head home for the night. But deep down inside, they want to start a company like Mirata. What advice would you give someone who's soul searching, I guess, who's young, just out of college?
I mean, I think especially in college, I would work a whole lot of internships. I would work a whole lot of jobs that are what you think you want to do. And really, especially even at that point when you're in college and still working, and it's a big thing that Gary Vaynerchuk pushes a lot, work for free for somebody that you really admire in that field. And that doesn't mean you got to put in 80 hours and not get paid for it.
Right.
But it means
let's be realistic.
Go shadow them and spend a couple days in their shoes, understanding what they do and how they do it. Because you may find that it's not what you really want to do. I mean, even for me, coming into college and really kind of through most of my collegiate career, I thought I wanted to be a sports agent.
Right.
Like that's really kind of I thought that was a really awesome thing. I could be around sports forever.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it could fit really well with what I wanted. But as I really started to talk to people and investigate that and look at that, you've got to kind of be pretty underhanded a lot of the times to lead the team to think that you're doing one thing when you're actually doing another, or
really?
Whatever. It doesn't mean that you lie about stuff. I don't want to make it seem like that, but
Yeah.
it's, you've got to kind of withhold some things to make it seem like you're a little bit more desirable to them than what you maybe are, or whatever it is. And at the end of the day, I just knew that that wasn't me, and I wasn't going to be comfortable kind of doing that. So that's when I had to make a shift, and then I kind of found the marketing angle. Marketing people versus marketing businesses is essentially the same thing.
Yeah.
So then that's when we were able to kind of jump in.
It wasn't a complete 180.
Right.
It's
just
kind of
an evolution.
path.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. So then how is it that you found your passion? I know you said you kind of stumbled into it, but did you take your own advice and did you do internships in college, or you said you played sports?
Yeah, so I was playing football in college, so I didn't have a whole lot of time, to do much other than that in school. So that kind of took up a lot of my time. But I definitely, I started even a little business when I was in college and playing.
Oh, really? What was it?
It was an apparel company that used more kind of a wholesaler approach to what it was, but doing some screen printing stuff and kind of selling those to different companies and that's it. So even then, I kind of knew that I wanted to do something.
Right, you had the entrepreneurial DNA in you.
Yeah, and so then afterwards, I went and I worked at Creighton University in their athletic department. So I worked in their marketing department in their ticket office for a while there. And then I started in the agency world, and I kind of just, got into that. Really, loved the people that I was with, loved a lot of the clients that we worked with and kind of what we were doing.
Right.
But it was just the traditional structure that I had a hard time, living.
The bureaucracy, the corporate ladder.
Yeah, well, it's just more so even just the way that the long-term structure was, the retainer plus project cost agreement.
I see.
It was hard for me to sit across the table from somebody and explain what they got for the retainer, because it was more just an access fee to talk to us. And I think I'm pretty smart, but I don't need to charge you to talk to me.
Sure.
I don't feel that that's the right kind of relationship structure. Mm-hmm. And so, that's where I ended up leaving, going to work on the client side of the desk for a while. And loved my time on there too, and did a lot of great things when we were there. But got to the point where I wanted to help more people, and that's where the idea for Mirata kind of sprung into, and kind of going on through there. So I always knew marketing side was always interesting to me. Right. So I knew I was in the right field. It was just getting to the right place to do that and execute that, which is where, eventually getting to run my own kind of came into play.
Sure. Makes sense. How long was Mirata just your side hustle before you made that leap?
It was about a year.
Okay. And I don't think I asked you this, did you come on alone, or did you already have a graphic designer?
Yeah.
Was it just you at the beginning, or did you come on with a team?
Yeah, so we had some graphic designers that we were working with, but more kind of as a 1099 structure.
Okay.
Which was great at that point in time, because I didn't have the capacity to hire employees and that side
pay
of it.
A salary or get benefits or anything like that.
Exactly. So, but we had those relationships already in place and knew that we could deliver what we were trying to do. So when we went full time, we just kept those relationships and continued to grow and
That's
get
awesome.
with them from there.
Okay, so when it comes to Mirata, and this is going to be the most simple question, what's next?
Yeah, I think a lot. I think we continue to evolve our services and really kind of grow what that is. Really, for us, the next kind of step is really just getting the word out. It's the same struggle that most small businesses deal with.
Sure.
How do we make people aware that this exists? I think because of our structure being so different, I think that once the awareness is out there, it becomes a natural kind of exploration of kind of what the relationship could be and what we could do for them.
Yeah, then you can kind of play around more and tweak things.
So I think, increasing that awareness and kind of finding some creative ways to do that is really kind of where we need to go, so that people know that we exist. We've been fortunate enough to have a lot of success outside of the Omaha area, and definitely some great success here as well too. Mm-hmm. But how do we grow that success here and really kind of make this that true home base for us? So how do we get local people to know that we exist and that our structure is different and it's different for a reason to help them be successful. So really that's, my next goal is kind of centered around that of really increasing the awareness and getting that word out.
Do you have a plan to execute that?
Sure. Always do.
Do you? Okay.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, appreciate it.
What as the years go on and as you get the word out for your business more, what are some concerns or I guess just highlights of where the industry as a whole is going in the next coming years? Like, is there an emerging social app that people should know about?
Yeah.
Or like, what's next for the industry, not just you guys?
As we kind of keep an eye on kind of what's next, and we always kind of take the approach of, 80% of what you do, your budget, your time, everything should be on stuff that works, that's tried and true, and customized and structured to what you're trying to do, but is stuff that we know we vetted and kind of is successful. The other 20%...
Isn't that the Google model? Sorry to interrupt. Didn't Google used to allow some of their employees to work on side projects or experiments for certain hours?
Yeah, and so kind of like that,
okay.
But not necessarily different. It's like new ways to accomplish the same goal.
Oh, okay.
So like using an emerging app or something to try and test out, are we going to have results and success with that? So while, let's just take digital advertising, Facebook ads are running, we know they're successful, we know that they're quality. So we're going to still contribute funds to that, but maybe there's some other kind of digital platform that we want to take. If we're spending $1,000, let's put 800 here, let's put 200 over here, and see if this has any value going forward to it as well too. So always kind of playing around with what's coming next and looking at that, but still not giving up what works for what could work.
So definitely silly.
Yeah. But I think really when we look at kind of what's next from the industry side, artificial intelligence, I think, is going to be a big part of kind of where things go.
I was wondering if you're going to bring that up.
Yeah, so and it just depends on kind of how you can use it. I think the bad part of our industry is that so many people have shiny object syndrome, where it's the new thing and I got to go use it, I got to jump on it. It's like, well, no, how are you going to use it? You need a plan in place to know how you're going to convert people off of it, how you're going to track the effectiveness of what that is. You can't just, this launched today, let me go use it and see where it's at.
Right. Because
you're not going to be successful and you may spend too much time or money down that rabbit hole without having any way to track what the validity of that is.
Makes sense. Well, I clearly don't have the shiny object syndrome, hence my camera that we're using. So Justin, you've been in the industry for a long time. What are the biggest issues with the industry that you've seen over time? And especially as the industry continues to change, as technology, a new piece of technology comes out every day, it seems like. What have been the biggest problems that on a personal level you kind of disagree with that the industry does? Yeah.
I think there's a lot, but I think the industry is always evolving. Technology is always evolving. Right. And so it's really trying to stay up on a lot of what that is. I think, in my mind, social is kind of one of those areas where there's a wide variety of providers that will do managed social media for people.
Sure. Meaning, and a lot of people don't know, meaning posting to your Instagram, your Facebook.
Your Twitter. So managed social media means you're having somebody manage your social channels for you. They're doing the posting, they're handling the environment that is created in those platforms. And as a startup, you shouldn't pay for that anyway. Regardless, you should be doing that. It's your voice. You need to create what that is.
I see.
As you get to a little bit bigger of a company, that is one of the things that you can outsource with the right partner. But what's really hard and confusing in managed social media is that there's a lot of people that want to get into doing that. And I think there's a lot of good people that do that. But there's also a lot of people that say, I need to charge X amount because I'm only going to have so many clients and I want to make $10,000 a month. Well, okay, then you got to charge $1,500, $2,000, $2,500 a client
just to post on your social media or share articles.
Right.
Wow, that's so much.
And that to me, from a price point standpoint, is ridiculous.
Sure.
But if people are willing to pay it and it makes sense, it's okay as long as you're getting the value out of that you're paying for. And that is where I see a lot of them fall down, just from a managed social media side of it in particular. So many people that are managing social media accounts are simply just finding articles that are loosely associated with, the industry that the business is in,
Sure.
and they're posting it to their page or saying, hey, check out this article, it's really cool about this, but it has zero value in actually growing a following, engaging the following, or doing anything to help grow the business. It's activity, not content. And there's a big difference between the two in my mind.
It's just kind of checking the boxes and, we shared a post this week.
Yeah,
we posted on your Instagram 2 times this week.
Yeah, we posted 4 times this month, and each one got an average of 1,200 views. Well, that's great, but what happened? Did we get any new followers from any of it?
That's critical.
Did anybody click it to go into our website further to figure out how they can actually do business with us? What did they do with that content? And if you're just sharing an article, that doesn't mean you never share an article. It means when you share an article, you actually read it and you figure out, how does that apply to my audience? Say, hey, here's a great article. Here's why I think you're going to like it. It hits on this, this, and this, which I really believe in. Read the full thing here and then share. That part is different than just finding an article that is random and saying, hey, here's a cool article, go check it out. That does nothing in terms of grow your audience. I was just gonna say. So that's where creating content is where we really try to strive with that. Creating custom things, custom posts, custom activity that is meant to engage with the audience and really kind of build that following.
How then do you measure because I posted Facebook ads for my business page or just in college for a class for practice. How the professor was try to get the most engagements or clicks. What is the best measurement? Because I feel like it's an industry where just based on the data that Twitter, Facebook, Instagram gives back to you, it's what's impressions, right? This many people saw you, but I feel like it's deeper than that. So how do you measure? Because like you said, they can see it, but does that transition to a sale? Do they buy into your brand then?
Right.
What measurements do you look at?
Yeah, and so, especially from a digital advertising standpoint, we look at it a lot differently than most of the people.
Okay.
Most digital advertisers, shouldn't say most, a lot of digital advertisers look at it and just say, what is that click-through rate? So how many people saw it versus how many people actually clicked on the ad to go where we wanted them to go.
To the landing page.
To a landing page, or the website, or wherever we decided that was right to send them. What is that percentage of people? And that's really where they hang their hat and say, we did our job. We got the click through. We got 1,000 people to your website this month from our ad. We did great. We did our part. And where I look at that and say, okay, that's step one in our mind. Great. You need people to respond to the ad and click the ad because that's the goal of what the advertising is.
Sure.
But where did you send them once they clicked the ad? Did they go to a random page on the website? Did they go just to the home page and had to go to wherever they wanted to go from there? Well, you should really think through that customer journey to the point of saying, where do they go? If I'm selling them an ad on this, what page makes the most sense for them to land on?
The most relevant.
Because you've already got them interested in a topic, and now you need to serve them more information on that topic to continue to push them down funnel.
Yeah, because in an ad, there's no way to sell the whole product.
Exactly.
It's just a clicker, right?
Yep.
To get them to drive them to the bulk of information.
Exactly. So then you get them to the website, and that's where your website analytics then take over. Because now Facebook can't really see. You can through some pixel and some of that sort of measurement stuff.
Sure.
But most everyday consumers not going to have that installed anyway.
Yeah.
So that's when but your website analytics then come over to say, okay, how many people actually got to that web page that I'm landing them on? Because that number won't equal the number that Facebook tells you that it does. And that's not necessarily Facebook lying to you or overcharging it. It's called, a lot of times it's called a phantom click. So have you ever been scrolling through your phone on Facebook and you accidentally hover too long and it click that, and then you get out right away because you didn't mean to click it?
Okay.
You still get charged for that click because they technically clicked your ad, but they didn't do any activity to where you were actually trying to get them to.
I see.
So you still pay for that click because it's just part of
the algorithm,
the platform. Yeah. So there's a certain percentage of those that just happen, and there's no way to prevent them. It
it's just
it is
human
what
error.
it is. Yeah. So then you watch what is your actual people get to the page. Then we'll look at how long were they on the page. So did they just get on for 4 seconds and then leave? Well, that's not really valuable traffic because they didn't have any time to read what was actually on the page.
True.
Did they click on anything on the page? Did they visit multiple pages on the site? We'll look at all sorts of different stuff to figure out, are we converting appropriately for the traffic that's coming through? And if not, we'll find out where the hole is, where is it falling down, and then we'll address that. And then we'll keep watching it to make sure that, okay, we know step 1 through 3 are solid. Now let's look, why are we falling short in step 4? How do we address that? How do we increase that conversion from there?
Interesting.
And so it's just a different way to look through it full circle and really think through the whole customer journey, not just how do I get people to click the ad, which is an important part of the process.
Right.
But it's not the only part of the
I like how you
process.
said that's just the first step.
Yeah.
Because it really is.
Yeah.
Because that's not the goal. The goal is to get people to download your free ebook or sign up for your newsletter. Right.
Get the email address. I mean, that's really at the end of the day what most of that digital advertising is for, is to get the email address, which in our mind is an actual transaction from that customer. It's not a dollar transaction, but I'm asking you to give me your email address, knowing that I'm going to market to you afterwards.
Sure.
So you have to see enough value in what we're providing from the digital side, from the free ebook, from whatever it is, to say, yes, I know I'm going to get marketed to afterwards, but I want this. I understand that this is what I could potentially need. So I'm willing to give you my email address to have that. And so it's really about creating that value through the whole process. And if you just send them to your homepage after they click the ad, you're losing the opportunity to actually convert more than what you're doing right now.
Makes sense. We've been talking a lot about Facebook, Instagram, the social medias, right? Does YouTube fall into that category, or where does that land in your perspective, being in the industry of monetizing these things?
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, there's a lot of value to the YouTube platform. I think you need to make sure as a business that you are prepared to really be good there. I don't think, my philosophy with social media for businesses is be in as many places as you can be really good. Okay. So don't just be on them because somebody said you should be on them.
Yeah.
If you can't produce the right kind of content and grow the following and cater to them, don't be there yet.
Sure.
Wait until you can do that and then expand into what those are. And so YouTube falls into that for me a little bit. Video is not an easy thing to do really well.
Definitely.
And so if you can't do it really well, don't hurt the value of your brand by doing that. If you can do it really well, or you have ways to do it, there's a lot of value to YouTube just from a following standpoint, but also from an SEO standpoint. Because you can put keywords and stuff in the descriptions. Right. Those videos can then actually rank in the organic Google rankings. So you can cheat your way into a little bit of SEO traffic from that as well too.
Interesting. I didn't think about that.
So there's lots of ways that we'll do that with clients. To even take advantage of some Facebook Lives or some quick little videos, repurpose them for some other content from a social standpoint. Sure. But then always try to contribute into that. But YouTube definitely has a lot of value within what the growth of a business can be. Again, it always comes down to content. Can you create stuff that people actually want to watch and engage with and talk about? Right. Then great. Then let's do that. Let's kind of work towards that side of it.
Yeah, totally makes sense. What about Snapchat? What are your thoughts on that from a business standpoint?
Yeah, I mean, again, everything works. It's just a matter of will it work for you and is it the right time to use it? Because if it didn't work, it wouldn't be around anymore. So it's really about, how do you find the right things for you? Snapchat falls into that. It just depends on what your business is.
And who your audience is.
And who your audience is and who you want it to be. It tends to be definitely a younger demographic that's using it. For sure. But, if you have a thing that's very visual or video-oriented, action-oriented, Snapchat can be a great, process for that. Even from a marketing standpoint, like we can do certain behind-the-scenes things or things like that from a marketing standpoint on Snapchat that can provide a lot of value to that audience.
So you use Snapchat for some of your clients before?
For some of our clients, we don't use it as our business because, again, if I can't be really good there, then I'm not going to put my effort into that either. But yeah, we've used Snapchat for some of our clients before and done certain things. I wouldn't say everybody fits where the effectiveness lies with Snapchat.
Yeah,
But
it seems to be very niche. Only a couple handfuls of different types of businesses.
yeah, and it's harder. It's harder to grow your following on that as well, because you can't really necessarily grow it through the app. You have to promote it from your other channels to really grow that following.
That's a good point.
So it just depends on where they're at from everything else too. If they've got a really good following that's engaging, then great, let's push them over to that and share some different content over there. But you can't just put that video and then post it on Facebook, and then post it to Instagram, that then puts it on LinkedIn, and think that now you've had content created for all four of your things.
Sure.
Because each audience engages and interacts with things differently, so you need to structure that content for each platform.
I have heard that.
Yeah.
So Snapchat, YouTube, Gary Vaynerchuk always emphasizes that there will always be certain things in the market that are undervalued or underpriced.
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me, underpriced is the right word, I guess, right now. Like a couple of years ago, he said Facebook ads are, in your opinion, are Facebook ads underpriced or the best bang for your buck? Or if someone, especially like someone in my position or another independent contractor who has a very limited budget, what is the best bang for your buck?
Yeah.
If there even is one, or is that just not being generous enough to
Yeah.
your industry?
It really depends on who and what they are and what they're trying to accomplish.
Okay.
So there's a strategic approach
Wait,
to
dodge the
figure that
question.
out. Yeah, well, I'll answer it too. But
No.
I think that what works for you is not going to work for the next person necessarily. So it really needs to be thought through from your own personal perspective.
Okay.
Digital in general is a very cost-effective way to have a lot of results. Whether that's Facebook, Google, LinkedIn runs advertising.
That's right.
It just, all of those work really well and can. There's a varying degree of price between all three of them.
Sure.
For different reasons as well too. But digital itself can be a way that you can take a smaller budget and really get a lot more results from it.
Okay.
Versus and track them and know what you're getting out of it versus running television or radio or whatever.
Yeah.
There's still
It's pretty
still
much
important.
out the door, isn't it?
No, I mean there's still a lot of value in television and radio.
Is there?
It just again depends on your budget and depends on what you're trying to do. If you've got a flash sale on something that everybody can buy and everybody would be interested in, you can't reach more people faster than on television or radio.
Still, even with the advents of Hulu,
Absolutely.
Netflix.
Absolutely. And there's strategies that we use to even circumvent DVRing and that sort of stuff too. So it's all about how you structure the buy.
I didn't even know that was possible.
Yeah, so you can work with them to buy certain shows, certain time slots, certain channels, certain whatever you want within there. So it's just about knowing how to structure those to get the effectiveness out of it. But there's still a lot of value in television, radio, print. It's just a matter of figuring out at what point in time and at what level does that make the most sense for you.
Sure. No, that makes sense. They all have their place.
Right.
And it just depends on goals and a lot of different factors.
Yep.
Well, I had another question for you. How did you come up with the name Mirata?
Yeah, so Mirata is Italian for targeted. Coming up with a name to start the business is always one of the fun parts for me. We've actually done it for 3 or 4 other companies.
Wow.
We built out their logo and all that stuff from it as well too. But when we were looking for our own name, everything in English centered around it that I felt was descriptive was either taken or really kind of corny. So I started looking at other options. One of my big business mentors is 100% Italian. And so, I kind of worked through some different things and used the Italian language. And then targeted marketing really fits with what we do. It's not a, hey, let's try everything approach. It's really targeted into helping you figure out strategically what makes the most sense to help you grow your business and move forward. And so it fit and on multiple levels. The alliteration too was a nice touch to be able to kind of work with it. But yeah, that's it.
I like it. No, it definitely adds a unique flavor, especially when you explain what it means and it makes sense. It's almost like a description.
Yep.
It's targeted marketing. It's not just a name and then like the word marketing underneath it.
Right.
Cool.
Yep.
Well, I appreciate your time here. Thank you very much for
you bet.
sharing your story.
Absolutely.
Tell people how they can find you.
Yeah, MirataMarketing.com is the easiest way to jump on our website. There's definitely some portfolio work, We're on Facebook, Instagram as well too, so check out some of the stuff there. But we'd love to hear from you.
All right, you heard it, guys. Thank you so much again for being here.
Appreciate it.
And yeah.
I've never been a speaker, my thoughts buried deep, pack heat in my core. So much pressure on myself, I'm about to explode. A rough volcano, lyrical lava flow, but like I said before.